Hello, family, and welcome to today's episode of Word Rules. In today's world, when we are talking about being married, more often than not, we are talking about wedding rings, the exchange of vows, and obtaining a license that serves as a legally binding agreement between a couple. Now, depending on the traditions, beliefs, means, and desires of those getting married, there are several other events, such as a wedding, bridal showers, and receptions that can all fall under the umbrella of getting married. And while all of the events I've just mentioned lend themselves to what getting married means in this era, we're going to see what Yah, our Elohim, says a marriage is. In the book of Malachi, chapter 2, we find Yah chastising Judah, the southern kingdom, specifically the Levites, for abandoning their wives for the sake of other women. This leads us to our foundational scripture for this topic, which is Malachi, 2nd chapter, verse 14, and it reads, "Yet ye say wherefore, or why? Because Yah hath been witness between thee and the wife of thy youth, against whom thou hast dealt treacherously. Yet is she thy companion, and the wife of thy covenant." So there are three key words that we will focus on to begin our understanding of how Yah defines a marriage. The first is the word companion, which in Hebrew is kabareth. Kabareth is derived from the Hebrew word kaber, which means knit together, and is used to describe an intimate relationship. The second word we will define Hebraically is isha, which is the Hebrew word for wife. When we look at the contextual Hebrew meaning for isha in this verse, it means a woman who belongs to a man, not in the sense of owning her as a possession, but in the sense of marital fidelity, or simply put, she was obligated not to share herself with any other man. Now, the last and arguably most important word we will define Hebraically is covenant. The Hebrew word for covenant is berith, and in this context, it describes an alliance. So let us reread verse 14 with our new understanding. "Yet ye say, wherefore? Because Yah hath been witness between thee and the wife of thy youth, against whom thou hast dealt treacherously. Yet is she the one to whom you are knit together, and the woman who is obligated to give herself only to you by way of an alliance." When Yah is chastising the Levites for what they have done, he reminds them that the women they have dealt with treacherously are not only knit together with them, these women are obligated to be faithful to them, and this is recognized by Yah through the covenant or alliance they had made with their wives. The covenant that Yah speaks of is what we today call marriage. Thus, with this understanding of Malachi chapter 2 verse 14, we understand that marriage is a covenant according to Yah. In modern day English, a covenant is a legally binding agreement between two or more parties, and it is not something that should be entered into lightly. In Scripture, Yah never gives a command for any specific action to be taken in order to achieve the covenant of marriage. Thus, any traditions or rituals we see in Scripture or in the world were the creations of men. Now, in order to achieve a covenant of marriage in the ancient days, you only needed two things: a dowry, or what is known as the bride price, and an agreement between families. We see examples of these traditions in the marriages of Isaac and Rebekah in Genesis chapter 24, verses 1 through 54, and the marriages of Jacob, Leah, and Rachel in Genesis chapter 29. Regarding the marriage of Isaac and Rebekah, Abraham sent his servant to find his son Isaac a wife. When the servant found Rebekah, he immediately claimed her by clothing her with expensive ornaments, after which he met and had dinner with her family and made his master's request known. Rebekah's family agreed to give her away, and Rebekah signs off on the decision. In the case of Jacob, Leah, and Rachel, Jacob goes to Laban, the guardian of Leah and Rachel, and requests Rachel, to which Laban agrees on the condition that Jacob works 7 years for her. Now, because of Laban's deceit, after his 7 years of service are complete, Jacob consummates unknowingly with Leah, which results in him working an additional 7 years to get Rachel. So I gave brief detail about both stories to emphasize a singular point, that being that sex in biblical times did not equate marriage. In both cases, the men were married to their wives before they were intimate with them. Thus, I repeat, sex in the Bible is not marriage. It is instead an obligation to pursue marriage. An example of this point is found in the book of Exodus, 22nd chapter, verses 16 and 17, and it reads, "If a man seduces a virgin who is not pledged in marriage and sleeps with her, he must pay the full dowry for her to be his wife. If her father absolutely refuses to give her to him, he still must pay an amount comparable to the bridal price of a virgin." This scripture describes two individuals that have had sexual intercourse but were not considered married. It also states that because the man had sex with the virgin woman, he had to pay the dowry for her even if the father refused to allow her to enter into a covenant of marriage with him. Now, some of you may think that I've missed a key element of getting married, that being the wedding, but I assure you I have not forgotten. The etymology of the word itself starts with the Old English word wedung, which is defined as the ceremony of marriage and the state or condition of being a husband or wife. If you search the entirety of the Old Testament, or Tanakh as it is called in Hebrew, you will not find a wedding celebration, none for Adam or Abraham or Isaac or Jacob. Some may point to the wedding Yeshua attended where he turned water into wine, but let me remind you that Israel at the time of Yeshua's first coming was in a deep state of apostasy and had adopted a great number of pagan practices. Having said that, there was a ceremony associated with marriage used by the Hebrews to solidify the marriage covenant. To demonstrate this, as in part 1 of our marriage series, we will reference Deuteronomy, the 22nd chapter, verses 13 through 15 for insight into this tradition. And it reads, "If any man take a wife and go in unto her, and hate her, and give occasions of speech against her, and bring up an evil name upon her, and say, I took this woman, and when I came to her, I found her not a maid. Then shall the father of the damsel and her mother take and bring forth the tokens of the damsel's virginity unto the elders of the city in the gate. And the damsel's father shall say unto the elders, I gave my daughter unto this man to wife, and he hateth her. And lo, he hath given occasions of speech against her, saying, I found not thy daughter a maid. And yet these are the tokens of my daughter's virginity. And they shall spread the cloth before the elders of the city." In ancient times, when a man took on a wife, he would have intercourse with her after paying the dowry and after the wife's family agreed to give her to him. If the man, after having intercourse with the woman, found that she was not a virgin, he had the right to divorce her. But the question is, how did the man know the woman was not a virgin? For that answer, I refer you back to verses 16 and 17. And it reads, "And the damsel's father shall say unto the elders, I gave my daughter unto this man to wife, and he hateth her. And lo, he hath given occasions of speech against her, saying, I found not thy daughter a maid. And yet these are the tokens of my daughter's virginity. And they shall spread the cloth before the elders of the city." The token of the woman's virginity is the bedcloth that contained the blood of the woman who bled due to the fact that she had never had sex with a man before. But where exactly does the blood come from? The answer is the hymen. As many of you know, the hymen is a thin layer of skin found in a virgin woman that breaks when she first has intercourse. Interestingly enough, in the early modern era, around the 1600s, civilization used a word called hymeneal, and it was used to describe anything pertaining to marriage. Now, some might say, well, the hymen could break doing anything. And while this may be true, that does not negate Yah's original intentions for its use. So why is it important for a woman to bleed when she first has intercourse with her husband? Now, I want you to listen closely. This is important because Yah, when he enters a covenant that creates a relationship between himself and men, uses blood to seal it. The blood from a woman's virgin womb seals the covenant of marriage between her and her husband and Yah himself. Because with the sealing of this covenant, the two agree to produce children and create a family, allowing the spirit that Yah first breathed into man through Adam to continue through the ages. What I want the women of Yah to understand is that they hold Yah's seal inside of them and that they should protect it at all cost, because it is with this seal that they guarantee that any man that enters the covenant of marriage with them will be held accountable. Malachi, 2nd chapter, verse 13, and it reads, "And this have ye done again, covering the altar of Yah with tears, with weeping, with crying out, insomuch that he regardeth not the offering any more, or receiveth it with goodwill at your hand." Because the Levites did not honor the sealed marriage covenant with their wives, Yah refused to honor their sacrifices to him. Now I want to close with one final foundational scripture, that being Matthew chapter 6, verse 10, and it reads, "Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven." My final question to you is this: has Yah himself ever married? And if so, did he conduct his marriage in the manner in which we see the biblical patriarchs conduct theirs? The answer is yes. So who was his bride? For that answer, let us take a look at the book of Jeremiah, chapter 31, verses 31 through 32. And it reads, "Behold, the days come, saith Yah, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break, although I was an husband unto them, saith Yah." From this verse, we see that the children of Israel were the bride of Yah. And who was the father of the children of Israel? Abraham. And did Yah pay a dowry to the father for his bride? Yes, he did. Genesis chapter 17, verse 8. And it reads, "And I will give unto thee, and to thy seed after thee, the land wherein thou art a stranger, all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession, and I will be their Elohim." In exchange for Abraham's seed, Yah promises them a homeland. And did Yah make a covenant of marriage with the father of the children of Israel? Genesis chapter 17, verses 9 and 10. And it reads, "And Elohim said unto Abraham, Thou shalt keep my covenant therefore, thou and thy seed after thee in their generations. This is my covenant, which ye shall keep between me and you and thy seed after thee. Every man child among you shall be circumcised, and ye shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of the covenant betwixt me and you." The covenant of circumcision is the marriage covenant between Yah and the father of the children of Israel, which says that Yisrael was betrothed to him. Now, did Yah consummate the marriage between himself and his bride? Exodus chapter 24, verse 7, and it reads, "And he took the book of the covenant and read it in the audience of the people. And they said, All that Yah has said, we will do, and be obedient." The consummation of the marriage between Yah and Israel was the giving of the law by Yah and Israel's acceptance of it. And finally, how did Yah seal this covenant? Exodus chapter 24, verse 8, and it reads, "And Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on the people, and said, Behold, the blood of the covenant which Yah hath made with you concerning all these words." With the sprinkling of lamb's blood on the people, Yah sealed his covenant with his bride, making it a binding agreement. Thus, family, how Yah, our Elohim, defines a marriage is that of a covenant, sealed in blood, which is the agreement of two individuals to come together for the production of children, which is a continuation of what Yah started in the Garden of Eden. Be blessed, family. Hallelujah.